The Bottom Line with the Gordils is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0. From Latinos to Latinos.
Hello and welcome to my show today. I'm very excited to be your host. My name is Deb Gordils and I am new to the Chicago area. That's right. I've done 200 radio segments in Lake County covering northern Illinois and southeast Wisconsin, but I have never been in Chicago. So this is a first, and I hope that you sit back and enjoy this show. It's a political talk show, and we cover very many topics, mainly out of Chicago politics, but we'll be covering national issues as well. And I'm very happy that you've had this opportunity to join me. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Chicago, and so when I talk about the city, it's with a great passion for justice and sort of a continual prosperity for this great city that I live in. So let's start off with local races in Chicago, political local races in Chicago. So we know that Bruce Rauner won the Republican nomination for governor. And now no matter who you supported, whether it was Kirk Dillard, who came in very close, I think within 4%, and at one time as close as 2%. That was a huge race. And then there was Bill Brady with Maria Rodriguez. She's just a dynamite woman. I had an opportunity to spend time with her and talk with her. And Bill Brady's a great guy, too. I firmly believe that he did not lose the last election against Pat Quinn. That election, I believe, was stolen from Bill Brady, so I thought his numbers would come in a lot higher than they did. But a strong Republican and still remains a Republican leader nonetheless. And then you had Dan Rutherford, who unfortunately had a lot of issues that stopped him from the very beginning. I actually wonder why he didn't bother dropping out of the race. He should have dropped out of the race and gave a larger opportunity for the other candidates, and I think it would have different numbers. However, everybody's got to make their own decisions. So we're off and running with Bruce Rauner. Everybody needs to get on board with Bruce Rauner. Rauner is a great candidate and the only chance we have to turn the state around. And so I'm sure that many of my listeners are very familiar with the fact that the state of Illinois is broke. We are in a mess. We not only are one of the lowest ranking states nationally in terms of, we might even be in last place in terms of the debt that we owe, but all our systems are broken. Our school systems are broken. We have our business is just flying out of the state, going to Wisconsin, going to Texas, going to Tennessee, anywhere but the state of Illinois. This great state is losing so many companies every month, leaving out of Chicago. And residents, I have so many friends who took off to Texas. Texas is a great place, don't get me wrong. I've been there over a dozen times. I have family living in Texas and friends, and my mother was born and raised there. So as a kid, she'd pack up the station wagon. Yeah, the old-fashioned station wagon with no seatbelts and the wooden trim on the sides, and off we'd drive from Chicago to Texas to visit Grandma. So I get why everybody would want to go to Texas with low taxes and it's business-friendly. We have a problem. I was talking to the 45th Ward committeeman, Michael Quigley. And no, it's not Mike Quigley, the congressman in the 5th District. I know that's very confusing, but there's actually, the Republicans actually have another Michael Quigley, who is a committeeman in the 45th Ward and newly appointed. And he said, Deb, I'm kind of excited. He goes, I'm really excited about, the opportunities that being a Republican committeeman can give me up here on the Northwest side. He said, however, I really need to tell you that we are do or die in Illinois. If we do not elect Rauner, if we do not put Rauner as the choice to win, it's over for us. He goes, there is no chance for the state of Illinois if a new direction is not taken with this new person, this businessman who's very successful, proven success. We need to turn the state around. And he's like, and if Rauner doesn't win it, he's like, seriously, my wife and I have talked about moving out to another state. So a lot of people are saying that, and I get it. I mean, I was born and raised in the city right off of Clark Street there in what is now known as Lincoln Park. We had a little small house there. 9 of us, big Catholic middle-class family. But I'll tell you, it worries me. It worries me that my daughters are not going to have a good future in the state of Illinois, and will have to go somewhere where they weren't raised, where they don't know. And there comes a lot of security with knowing your way around town. And I really hope that through Rauner being elected as the next governor, that we, in fact, will turn the state around. So very, very important for all of you to get out the vote. Get involved. Get engaged. If you're sitting here right now and you're listening to my radio show and you're saying, I don't think Rauner's the guy, I don't think a Republican governor is going to make a difference, then I beg you to get online and to Google, or the old-fashioned way, get out some books and read some information, surf, I don't know, talk with other friends, maybe stop a Republican and say, why are you Republican? Give me the other side of the story. Because if you think the Tribune and the Sun-Times are going to give you anything but a leftist, liberal-leaning media pot of information, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You need to go to objective reading sources, and you need to ask the right questions, because we are in big trouble in Illinois. And I'm not sharing the doom and gloom you don't already know. I mean, some of you may very well be unemployed right now, or starting a new career because you had no choice and you were laid off, or one of your spouses or your mates, roommates or whatever is not working and you're carrying all the load. Or maybe you're looking for work. You know, every single person listening to this radio show knows that they are not in a better position today than they were before Obama became the president. When he became the president, everyone was scared. Things were crazy. Things were falling apart. It was a spiral. I wish that he would have made it stop and go in reverse, or at least stop and not continue to go down. But you look at the facts and you look at the numbers, and everything went down. Or up, if you're talking about the increase in taxes, then it went up. We're paying more for food. We're paying more for gasoline in the car. We're paying more for insurance. We're paying more for products. And now the Obamacare tax is that new ACA, I think it is, tax number that you see on the receipts. And if you go and pull those receipts, you'll see you're being charged. I think it's companies or businesses that have more than 50 employees they could put that healthcare increase onto the customer. So you're going to be paying for Obamacare or the HHS mandate or whatever they want to call this medical stuff. You're going to be paying for that every time you buy soda, every time you buy a donut, every time you buy a toy, every time you buy groceries or food. You got that tax added on. It's nuts. You could very well be paying it 10 times a day. It is crazy. We need to definitely repeal Obamacare. So, anybody, I know that Chicago, of course, the state of Illinois, where Obama came from, this big city, they're all, trying to get you to sign on. I tell you, don't sign on. Sign off and tell them it needs to be repealed. And I hope to God we have a Republican president that wins in 2016 to repeal that darn Obamacare, because it is horrible. Now, let me tell you one thing about Obamacare. Everybody's like, public aid was bad. Public aid was great compared to Obamacare. I know. I was on public aid at one time. I'm going to tell you, public aid will pay your bills, and when you die, nothing happens. In Obamacare, when you die, your kids pick up the tab and owe the government whatever it costs to keep you alive when you were dying of cancer or whatever. So it's bad enough that a child loses a parent to cancer or loses a parent to some long-term illness or something, but then they have to pay and owe the government after they lose their parent. And there is no parent, and I'm a parent, I have 2 kids, I'm telling you, there's no parent out there that wants to strap healthcare tab on their children. I mean, I bet you a ton of parents will say, just shoot me in the head now. That's it. Just let's pull the plug now. Don't even take me to the doctor. Let me die, and let me die soon, so that you don't have to pay anything. They would do that for their children, because we do anything for our kids. So it is, we need to repeal Obamacare, and we need to get rid of that. And that is a shout out to not just all my listeners in Chicago, but all over the state of Illinois and all over the country. We really need to support people like Ted Cruz, Latino, Cubano, who I like, and Marco Rubio, otro Latino who I like. And these are Tea Party guys. People are slamming the Tea Party. These guys are doing great things for us. They are not, bad people. They're great people. I had a great, just a blessing opportunity to meet Ted Cruz and get to know Ted Cruz, and actually got a call from him a couple months ago on a call I had left for him. So these are great people, but we got plenty of time, and we got a lot of show ahead of us, and we got a lot of, I think I'm going to be on the air for the next 4 months, God willing, every day, Monday through Friday, from 5 to 6 p.m. And let me tell you where you're listening to me. So you may be listening to me in Lake County. That's out there by Gurney on 1500 AM WPJX, out of Radio Latina from 8 to 9 p.m. and RadioLatina5.com, I'm sorry. And you can, if you're interested in what we're saying here in the show and you just want to comment, you're welcome to give Steve a call at 224-545-7270. Again, any comments for the show out in Lake County, Gurney, you're welcome to call Steve at 224-545-7270. You're also listening to the show on 1590 AM WCGO Chicago. And I love the city, so I love this segment of the show being heard in Chicago. And so I want to say thank you to all of you for listening, and tell your friends to come on over and listen to Deb. I'm on for an hour every day, Monday through Friday, from 5 to 6 o'clock. Here at 1590 WCGO Chicago. And I'm also being heard in Evanston. I love Evanston. Evanston, what a great town. Evanston along the North Shore. That's at 1470 AM, 1470 AM on WCFJ in Evanston. So if you have any comments to get to me directly, you could call Steve again in Lake County, or if you're interested in advertising on this great Republican radio, you can call 773-991-3577. Again, that's 773-991-3577. Let's get back to Chicago politics. So, Chicago, you think, well, it's over. They just won the governor's race, and a few people were in the primary. A few people were Republican candidates, got on the ballot, and won the primary in Chicago. That still leaves over 53 seats, House seats in the Republican House that will run unopposed in the November election if the city of Chicago Republican committeemen don't get their butts up and slate candidates. And so what is slating a candidate? Well, the Republican committeemen in Chicago have the job given to them by the legislature in Springfield to slate Republican candidates where no Republican ran in the primary. So it's sort of like your last chance effort to get a Republican on the on the ballot against the Democrat incumbent who's sitting there. Let me give you a good example. You have in the 11th district, you have Ann Williams, who, by the way, turned in horrible petition sheets when she was running and wanted to get on the ballot, but the Board of Elections still gave her a break and let her get on. So in the 11th district, they did try to find a candidate, couldn't find one, or they couldn't get enough signatures. So now the committeemen in the 11th district, which are the Republican committeemen who sit in the wards that control that state seat. In other words, they vote and support, and that's where the elections are happening in their ward. So in the 11th district, you got the 47th ward, you have the 44th ward, you have the 32nd ward, you have, I think, even parts of the 38th Ward. So you have about 5 or 6 Republican committeemen who get together, and only 2 of them need to sign the document that says, fine, we're going to move ahead and slate this person to run against Ann Williams in the November election. Well, it's not that easy. So they get together and they sign these papers, and then after they sign the papers, the Cook County Chairman, Aaron Delmar, who's fabulous and wonderful, and I'm sure you'll find people on both sides of the aisle who'll say, yes, he is, no, he's not, I don't really care. He's the chairman right now, and he's doing a great job right now, and he will sign off to get these candidates on the ballot. So then once he signs them, in the old days, and I'm not talking too long ago, in the old days, about 5 years ago, once they signed those forms, they would get on the ballot. But now the legislature in Springfield recently said, let's make it harder for them. Let's make it harder for the people to get a contest between 2 people during an election, because the Democrats really love having just one person there, and people have no choice, and then they just got to vote for that same person, even if they don't like them, because they're the only ones there. So when we get back after these commercials, we're going to talk about what's involved in getting somebody slated, and what does that mean to you. So thank you for listening. Stay tuned. I'll be right back after these commercials.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois, with over 20,000 copies of each edition. El Sueño Americano is available in all versions: El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0, from Latinos to Latinos.
Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Deb Gordils, for tonight's political talk show here in Chicago. You know, I before the commercials, we were talking about slating candidates. And so these Republican committeemen, a handful of them, get together and they slate a candidate. Once they get the candidate's paperwork done, then the state legislature decided to recently add another hurdle to getting them on the ballot. Because remember, the Democrats control the legislature. And so they create the laws so that things continue to go their way, and they continue to have a stranglehold on the state that they've destroyed all this time. We can't blame anybody else but the Democrats for the destruction of the state of Illinois, because they've controlled it. They have controlled it. And they've controlled it with the help of some bad Republicans, too. So we really need to look at our legislatures when we're making decisions and decide. I mean, you may have a very bad Republican there. Then you got to get rid of him, too, I guess. You know, but the thing is, I'm trying to tell you to keep people off the ballot and not give anybody a chance is horrible. It's horrible for everybody. It's an injustice to the citizens of this state. And that's what's happening all the time with the Board of Elections. So it is very crucial that we slate a candidate to run for the clerk's office seat in the Cook County Clerk's office, David Orr. We have a candidate that we are going to run, and we need to do that. We need to succeed. And his last name is Gambino, or is that his first name? At any rate, I'll get more information about the candidate that they're getting ready to slate against David Orr, because on the first day of work, day one of his job when he wins, is to get rid of the Board of Elections. That's right. Get rid of the Board of Elections and institute what 48 other states in America are doing. That is to pay a fee to get on the ballot. Isn't that fine with us? I mean, everybody has to pay for something. Let all the politicians pay a fee when they go to apply to run again. Even if you have 5 people on the ballot, good. The top, let the first one win. I mean, we just had 4 people running for governor. It didn't hurt anybody. It's fine. Let the top two have a runoff or whatever you want to do. Let the top one be the candidate. But we need to get rid of the Board of Elections because that is just the tool that's used by the Democrat legislatures and those legislatures who don't want anybody to get on the ballot. Because they passed a law recently that says after the Republican Party or the Green Party or any other party slates a candidate, that candidate has a lesser time than anybody else to get signatures to try to get on the ballot. So they got to go out and collect 1,000 signatures, sometimes 2,000 signatures, sometimes 4,000 signatures. They got to run around and get signatures. And you think, oh, well, there's a lot of people in Chicago. It'll be easy to get signatures. Well, guess what? Those signatures are collected, and then they have to present those signatures in a short period of time, like 50 days, 70 days, to the Board of Elections. And then the Board of Elections looks through every signature and tells you, this person is not registered. This person does not live at that address. This person is not on there. So we're going to get rid of the signature. And guess what? You don't have enough signatures because you brought in 1,000 signatures. I know a guy who brought in 3,000 signatures and all he needed was 500. And they kicked him off the ballot because they said he only had 470. And one of the signatures was his wife's signature. Another one was his best friend's signature. And they said, hey, this signature is really scribbly compared to how it used to be. And he said, so that's because my friend was dying of cancer, but he wanted to sign my petition. So I went to his hospital bed and had him sign it. And this candidate is crying, telling the story. And these darn Board of Elections who have no heart at all. You know, like zombie land down there. You ever be down at the Board of Elections? You need to go down there. It's like zombie land. These guys were ripping into this poor man who's crying about his friend who died of cancer, who was signing his petition. But, I personally was at the Board of Elections this last go-around when they were trying to slate candidates with some Democrat elected politicians' petition sheets where the signer, first of all, it was a photocopied sheet. The Board of Elections didn't even want to hear about the photocopied sheet. But the signer goes ahead and isn't even in the system. They're like not even registered. They're like nowhere to be found, not even the first name, nothing. And the Board of Elections says, oh, it's still good. We have to still honor that. We can't find it, but we have to honor it. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. I know from being involved in this process for so many years, 10 years now, that you will not allow a registered voter signature be on a form unless it's on the machine for Republicans or Green Party or Independents, but you have and you toss them out, but you have no problem doing that for the Democrats. So you see, there's something very wrong there. And so that's the slating process in Chicago. And that's what we got to get rid of. And that's really what we need to address. I have right now on the phone getting ready to join us a very good friend of mine. This is Frank Martinez. Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Frank, we're on the radio show right now. And how exciting, because you were on my radio show when I was in northern Illinois and southeast Wisconsin. But now, in addition to that area, we're being heard all over Chicago right now, Frank.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is wild. So I'm talking to all my compadres now here in the city because, you know, I'm a city girl. And we're also being heard in Evanston and along the North Shore and all the way down to almost in Indiana. I think Hammond, Indiana can actually hear our show. So we welcome everybody. And, you know, Indiana, of course, has a Republican governor, and so does Wisconsin. So that's kudos to you guys out there in Wisconsin, Indiana. You're doing it right. Hopefully in Illinois we'll have a Republican governor and we'll have some kind of trifecta going on here and get some things changed. You know, Frank, I was just talking a little bit about local politics in Chicago and the slating process and the fact that we have so many seats that are not, there's no race in them. These are all incumbents like Barbara Flynn Curry, out there in House District 25 on the south side. She had horrible petition sheets, yet she stayed on the ballot. Nobody could get on on against her. And you had Ann Williams in the 11th District up on the north side. Again, terrible petition sheets she submitted. The Board of Elections allowed her to stay on. The list goes on and on. I think they went after Bob Rita. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I know Don Harmon in the 39th Senate seat, they went after him. So there were quite a few. I think they had about 29 petition sheets, but the Board of Elections only would allow them to actually file a dozen against. They would not let the other 13 come in. They said something about some policy that they couldn't accept anything after 5 p.m. But I think the law clearly says that if you're in the room and you're at the counter and the door's closed, you still get to finish your work before you get out. So, no attorney jumped up to take that case, and it was sad that it didn't happen. But, what's your thought on it? I mean, do we not always have citizens complaining that there's nobody running in Chicago?
Well, yeah, there's also a little bit of a double standard because, every so often you hear about Democrats fighting back and able to somehow not get the Republican nominee on the ticket, but yet when the Republicans try to do the same with the Democrats, somehow it just doesn't work out to their benefit. I don't know. I'm not 100% not sure on how the system works, but I just hear stories here and there that, it just seems like the Democratic machine here just plays very, very dirty. They don't play a level, even playing field, basically.
So if I were to tell you that the best way to get rid of this whole mess and this whole problem and let each ward, each community, each neighborhood, Logan Square, Humboldt Park, Brighton Park, the South Side, Englewood, all of these neighborhoods would be able to pick their own people simply by getting rid of the Board of Elections. Would you believe me?
Yeah, well, there's got to be a better system than we got right now.
Yeah, well, the Board of Elections, actually, there is a candidate, his name is, I was telling him I'm going to get all the data on this guy, but there's a candidate that the Republican Party is thinking about slating against Cook County Clerk David Orr, who controls 120 different places where the votes are tallied, not just in the 50 in Chicago, but an additional 110 outside of the city. He tells the Board of Elections in all of these areas, he oversees them. If on day one, the Republican candidate wins that seat, on day one, this guy promised that he would get rid of all these Board of Elections and make all of these politicians pay a fee to run for office. What do you think about that?
Yeah. You know what? There's a guy we was talking to. He was a Democrat before. Well, he was growing in a Democratic family. Got smart. Got to get old. He got smart. Figured out this is not what I truly believe in. That's not the right thing. That's not the way to do it. And he became a Republican, right?
Yeah.
So now he's trying running as a Republican in the Rock Island area, in the state of Illinois, the Rock Island area. Anyways, he tried running a couple of times. He got sued a couple of times by the Democrats, trying to keep him off the ballot. And then now there's nobody running for a state congressman against the Democrats in his area. And he would like to run, if it was possible, in that area.
Well, I can definitely, when we're done with the show, get his information and direct him to the people who might be able to help him run. It's very important. If you have any interest out there, those of you listening to our radio show, any interest in running for any office or being slated or get involved in this big, exciting time for Illinois, because Illinois is just ready to implode and it wants new leadership and new direction, you can call and leave a message or reach somebody at the office at 1-773-472-VOTE. VOTE. That's right. 1-773-472-VOTE. And you can have this gentleman call that number, and we'll direct him to wherever people who could help him to get on the ballot down there and help him with the paperwork or do what he has to do. It sounds like he's someone who's tried to run before. He ran up against the Democratic machine. And this is what we tell people all the time. The Democratic machine will eat their young. For those of you out there listening who are Democrats and are happy with it, that's fine until you do or ask something that they don't want. I dare you to run for office as a Democrat in the Democratic Party. They will smack you down so hard it'll make your head spin. Unlike Republicans who just run a race against you. So, if you had to, a lot of people don't understand that because they don't actually run for office or, they don't get involved in politics. But, for people who get involved in politics or try to run for office or try to help a neighbor, a friend who does, the quick realities of how ugly and dirty it can be really come out. Chicago's notorious for it. These stories are not made up. I mean, you can't even make up this stuff. I mean, I remember a married couple who went out to collect signatures. They were in their 60s. And out of nowhere, right here in the 33rd Ward, which is in the Albany Park area, that's a ward controlled by Dick Mell, now by his daughter, Deb Mell. And I was actually in that office last week trying to get a form. And I had never formally met her, although I was at her mom's funeral. So it's not like, maybe, I don't know, that was so many years ago, to pay my respects as a community person there. But she looks right at me and she goes, "Hi, Deb." And I go, "Hi, Deb." We both have the same name. And then she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I thought, oh my God, she knows my name. She knows who I am. What am I, like, I have a photo up in a ward office, and then the reason why I'm laughing and that comes to mind was because she didn't have the forms that I needed. I was in the wrong place. So I ended up going to another ward office again, where I never met the alderman. And he's like, "I know who you are. What do you want?" I was like, what? I said, I'm just looking for this form. Okay, fine. I get the form. And then they were very helpful, but it was funny. I was thinking, what is going on? Like, these people got my photo up somewhere. All right. So anyway, it's so important. People can call 1-773-472-VOTE. If you want to run for office, know somebody who wants to run for office or be slated or just get involved in the whole political process. This is an exciting time. It's an exciting time. We have to change this state. This state is in a bad situation right now. We need something different, and no one from the Democratic Party is going to give us that. They've controlled the whole state. We need to win House seats, Senate seats, congressional seats. We need to win the governor's race with Rauner. We need to send a clear message that the time has come. We've given them a chance. I'm not telling them to leave angry or leave sad. You had your shot and you blew it. You had your chance and the state is broke. It's in a horrible place. We need to do something. So tell me, please, what's your thought on Rauner?
I think he's got a great shot. Just think of this. He was a nobody before, compared to these three other candidates that have been in politics for years. And along comes a nobody and beats all three of them. That's pretty impressive, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, what I like about it is, he's something fresh and new, meaning that he's a very intelligent businessman. He knows how to run a business. And granted, in business, at certain levels, you do somehow get involved in politics. It just goes hand in hand when you get to a higher level like he has.
Right.
So he knows how to work with them.
Well, he's a businessman, and we need business to stay in Illinois. We need to bring new business. We need to keep our old business here. We need to create jobs through these businesses that are working and operating in Illinois. I mean, if we keep losing at the rate that we are, nobody's going to have a job. Nobody's going to do anything. We have so many people on food stamps who can't get off food stamps, and now Obamacare is telling them you got to pay $200 a month for health care. I'm thinking, wait a minute. If you don't have money for food in Illinois because you have a link card to help you get food, how the hell are you going to give them $200 for health care too? That's just crazy. If there's no money for food, there's no money for insurance. And they're going to go to jail according to the Obamacare law. They're going to be fined. So they're going to have to come up with more money they don't have, and then they're going to go to jail. This is crazy. Obamacare is nuts. It's got to be repealed. And I think that a Republican governor could very well say no to Obamacare in the state of Illinois. I mean, there's a couple of states who said, keep your Obamacare. We'll run our own state program.
Right. Well, I think that he has a lot to offer. He's not like a typical, he won't turn into a typical politician because he's 4 term limits. You can't buy the guy. The guy could actually buy you. I mean, he's got so much money, which is I kind of like that because I don't have to worry about someone being paid off because they need the money. You know what I'm saying? So they'll vote one way or allow lobbyists to swing him one way or another. You know,
yeah, I think
I believe that he's done his time. He's made his money. I mean, he loves the state, and he's doing it only to get in and get out. Just fix it and be for the next person to continue.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, and I love that he wants to get in there, and that the referendum for term limits is now coming in there. So I'm glad he's not planning to be around for a long time. Hopefully, he will support this whole push for term limits, and that what we end up having is everybody gone. I mean, this is crazy. Madigan's been there like 41 years. How crazy is that? 41 years.
Yeah, well, Dick Durbin has also been around 35 years, something like that.
Yeah, well, okay, nobody beats the Cullerton family, okay? The Cullerton family in the 38th Ward, 101 years the Cullerton family has controlled the 38th Ward. Right now, the Cullerton name is being used, but sometimes it's a relative, still controlled by the Cullerton who has a different last name, like Allen, the guy Allen who was the alderman there before this Cullerton guy took over. So 101 years. I mean, come on, you guys. I mean, that's a lot. That is really insane. That is crazy. Because I don't know of anything that anyone in the city of Chicago is going to jump up and say, my gosh, isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? We have that in the city of Chicago. And that happened because of the Cullerton family. Or maybe there is. I don't know. I haven't heard of anything.
Well, think of it as a dictatorship. If someone's been there a very, very long time, they get to a point where the system creates this philosophy that it's my way or the highway.
Well, it's their career, it's their job, it's a business. They've made these aldermanic seats a business that allows them to become millionaires themselves as aldermen, and it allows them to allow their family members to become high wage earners as well as heads of numerous departments throughout. And so they've allowed their friends and their family live off the backs of the taxpayers, and Illinois taxpayers need to get smart and start to know that they need to vote differently in this upcoming election. You know, Frank, I'm so glad you're on here. Please stay on. We're going to go to a few commercials, and we'll be right back with Frank Martinez. You're listening to Deb Gordils, and we'll be back after these commercials. Thank you.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies of each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0, from Latinos to Latinos.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Deb Gordils on numerous stations. You might be listening to me on WCGO Chicago, 1590 AM, or 1500 AM WPJX out of Lake County with Radio Latina. Or you might be listening to me on 1470 AM WCFJ out of Evanston. So thank you for tuning into my show. We'll be on the air Monday through Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. in Chicago and Evanston. And in Lake County, we will be on from 8 to 9 p.m. with our radio show. We are, as you know already, a Republican-leaning to the right, center to the right paper. We also support independence. We are here to try to bring about awareness of the political action that's happening in the city. And so we talk about all kinds of topics at the national level. We'll talk about Obamacare, which we really don't like. We'll talk about Common Core, which is another thing we don't like. We will talk about the Second Amendment right. It's very important that we have guns in the hands of good people who want them, who are trained to use them to protect themselves and to defend themselves. It's been around since the founding fathers decided it's important for people to protect themselves and arm themselves. And statistics show overwhelmingly, if you look at the statistics just for Houston, Texas alone. And Frank, are you with me still here? Frank? Can you hear my, did I lose you? Oh, okay, great. I thought I lost you for a second. So, Frank, we're talking about the Second Amendment right, and people need to understand that having guns has always been a right for an American. It's always been promised to them. Women and children were raised with guns here in America, and it's only been something more recent that this propaganda to the left, these liberals, progressives, have been acting as if though guns is something new, like guns are being introduced in some way to our society. But the truth is that guns have been removed and citizens have had their rights violated. You know, bad people are going to still continue to buy guns. Bad people are not going to obey the laws. So you can't make a law that someone should not own a gun. What you should make is a law that says bad people should not own guns. Bad people should need to go over 20 hoops to get their guns and buy their bullets. Not good people. What do you think about that, Frank?
I do believe exactly what you just said. I believe that the problem is not the bad people, the good people with guns, the law-abiding citizens like you and I, because no matter what kind of constraints you put on us, it's not going to stop the bad guy, the drug dealer, or the murderer, or the psychological challenged person that doesn't think straight, unfortunately. They're the ones that are committing these crimes. I know that the statistic about a year ago in Texas, the problems I think is not handguns either. Only a percentage of the crimes were by handguns. The majorities were not handguns.
I know.
In fact, so they're trying to correct the problem. I give them credit for trying to correct the problem. The problem is that they're not correcting it with the right solution. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, Houston, Texas did there's this great comparison, and you can Google it and find it online, but there's a great comparison of Houston, Texas, and Chicago, Illinois. And in Houston, Texas, they have 290 gun stores, and in Chicago, we only have 0 in the city. So then they said, this is how many firearm training schools, academies there are in Houston, Texas, and it named about 100 places. And then it said in Chicago we have 2 or 3. And then it said the murder rate in Houston, Texas is it was something 20-something murders occur in Houston, Texas in that year. And in Chicago, it was almost 1,000 murders in the year. And so the line at the end, the conclusion is that cold weather causes homicides. You know that's not true. We need to keep guns in the hands of good people. It is ridiculous to make a law that says good people shouldn't carry guns, good people shouldn't buy guns. The law should specifically say bad people, felons, ex-felons, whatever, people with criminal history, people who have issues that might get in the way of them owning a gun should not own them. The laws should not go against the Constitution of the United States.
Well, it comes down to common sense. That's what it comes down to. There's just no common sense sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, and then here online, I want to talk with you a little bit about an article that came out in the Western Journalism online. A shocking new poll explains America's degenerate culture. As much as the humanist crowd argues the contrary, America relies on its citizens' faith in God to maintain our unparalleled level of freedom and opportunity. That is true. I mean, the reason America got the heck away from the king was because it wasn't King George, I think, at the time. The reason America got away from the king and what was be able to create itself as a new nation, ungoverned like any other nation in the world. At the time that America was founded, every country in the world had a king or a queen. It was run by the monarchy. It was not run by the type of government that these Americans created, and were able to create that, and were able to get people to vote on it based on religion. It's the reason why the Pilgrims came here. Freedom of religion. And so our religion is based on Christianity. A faith in God is needed to maintain our freedoms and opportunity. And what's happening today in America? Abortion. You and I know as Latinos that an abortion is not what God would want. God brings in life and God takes life away. And an abortion is not an option. But lately, these progressives, liberal leftists, have convinced everybody that abortions are okay. It's crazy, it's insane, and it is the number one reason why America is losing its liberties and freedoms, because we have dehumanized the babies and the infants and the fetus. And when you take that humanity aspect out of birth and babies, you create sort of like a non-caring, non-godly environment.
Well, there's also war in Christianity as well at the same time. So there's a lot going on right now. It's not just the abortion part of it. It's just it's like going back into the Roman times and the church times when a lot of it was about religious wars. That's what it kind of feels like almost right now with the Muslims, Christians.
Well,
Jews,
this article goes on to say that more than 1 in 5 people reveal that religion is not that important anymore and doesn't play a role in their lives. When the question was first asked in 1997, 14% of the people selected that as a response, but now it's 1 in 5 select that as a response. And with younger generations increasingly shunning religion, what's going to happen is that these young people are going to raise children in a godless household who are going to think religion is nuts.
Well, you know what? So when you take away religion, you are taking a little bit of the common core of humanity away, and that's when you're going to see more broken families, more divorce. You're going to see more people looking for government help. I remember seeing a study one time. There was I can't remember if I mentioned it before on a previous show, but there was a study done on Indian preservation. And American Indians get more help from the U.S. government than any other group, okay? And they showed the one, I think it was in Montana, over the Dakotas, compared to one I think it was up where Connecticut area. And the one that was in the Dakotas or Montana area got everything. I mean, they got everything. And they were, they lived in trailer parks. It was drug infested, crime infested. It's not a very productive environment. And they took everything from the government. Then they went to the preservation in the Connecticut area, the East Coast. They didn't want anything from the government. And guess what? They own Ace Hardware stores. They live in really nice areas, nice homes. They lead a nice life. And that just goes to show that, when people take pride in what they do, they're more accountable in what they do. They'll have a better lifestyle. They respect themselves, respect others. And it's just better for society overall.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when you have this belief that everybody's got to work together to do what we can do to make the best out of life, I think we're more generous and kinder to each other because we respect. God calls on us to respect others and to tolerate and to empower and to love our neighbors. You take that whole thing out, then what rule, what sort of commonality are we going to have for behaving well? So we're going to come back after these commercials with more with Frank Martinez and I, Deb Gordils. Thank you so much. You're listening to our show today, and we're really grateful, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is sponsored by El Sueño Americano newspaper, the best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois, with over 20,000 copies of each edition. El Sueño Americano is available in all versions: El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of the news. The best analysis on region, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information, and the championnews.net, the conservative voice of Illinois news and commentary of education, pensions, and politics. The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0, from Latinos to Latinos.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Deb Gordils here. Again, thank you. Tonight kicks off the first night of many shows that we will have here from 5 to 6 p.m. on 1500 AM, 1590 AM, and 1470 AM. So I know we're being heard in Evanston, Lake County, and all over Chicago and down in Hammond, Indiana. I want to welcome and thank you, all of you, for listening into my show. If you've been tuning in, you know that, we're center to the right thinkers here, conservative, we're Latinos, Frank Martinez, and although Deb Gordils is not necessarily a Hispanic name, my middle name is Leticia, but I am Puerto Rican and Mexican, and I'm very excited to be here today sharing my show with you. We'll be on every day from 5 to 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday, leading right up to election time. So stay tuned if you want to hear what's happening in Chicago politics or in the state. The center to the right politics. We'll be sharing numerous stories. One of the things that's happening right now, Frank and I were talking a little bit before I aired this segment. We're talking about the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly, the RNHA group of the state of Illinois. A little history on the RNHA. The RNHA was created by a couple of guys who were out in Washington, D.C. during the Reagan administration, and they were trying very hard to have Latino issues addressed, and there were a handful of them. And so one of the things that they decided that would be much easier than walking in the door and saying, I'm a Latino, or, 10 Latinos are going to get together tomorrow, or 5 of us can, to create a national organization. They created the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly. And one of those founding members lives here in Illinois. His last name, I'll get his information to you so we can talk more about him. But he's here in Illinois, and we've exchanged some emails back. And he's talked about the Republican National Hispanic Assembly as one of the founding members. They created it nationally. Now he lives here in Illinois. He is part of the Illinois Conservative Republican National Hispanic Assembly. It's a blessing to talk to him. He's in his 80s. He's very excited about what it's doing. But recently, Frank, I know that you're a sitting board member, a voting member of the Illinois RNHA, and so are quite a few others. I think there's like 14 there. Do you recall some of the chapters that are in the Illinois RNHA? I know Grundy County has an Illinois RNHA. You got Grundy County, DuPage County, Kane County, Winnebago County. You have 5 regions in Chicago alone. You have the north side, the south side, southeast side, west side. I know Calumet City, Cicero. So one of the big things that they're working on, I think, is the membership drive. Very important for Latinos. If you're a listening Latino and you happen to be conservative and you want to become part of the IRNHA, you can contact our office for now until we get some numbers for you. You can call us at 1-773-472-VOTE, and we will get you connected to your area chairman. So tell me, what are your hopes with this organization, Frank?
Well, my hope is that we educate the Latino community that what Republicans truly stand for really are in line with their philosophies and their beliefs, meaning family, faith,
same values,
and patriotism. Right, patriotism. And I truly believe that the Democratic Party, especially the left-wing liberals, they're very, very good at the gift of gab. They've been just, they talk, but they truly don't do anything to truly help the Latinos. And they're very good at painting a rhetoric that the Republican Party doesn't care about the Latino, and it's totally the opposite. It really, really is. I know of true Hispanics personally that used to be Democrats at businesses, and they decide, that they don't believe in the Democratic philosophy anymore, and that they're more in line with Republican philosophy once they know what they don't, what they didn't know. It's like the old saying that what you don't know, you don't know. But once you do learn it, you're like, oh, now I can make a better decision. So they became Republicans, and when they went to the Democratic leadership for whatever it was for the businesses, they did things purposely that would harm the business, and eventually they had to shut down.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't reflect very well and tell me much about the Democratic Party about helping Latinos truly. What is me or lets me know is that they are truly looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
And if you offend them, it's kind of like almost like un-American, or what, I'm going to bury you, slave.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's the way to be. And I truly believe that is the Republican Party perfect? No, it's not. Is there anything perfect? No. Is this country perfect? No. We are imperfect people who live in an imperfect world, right? But the best system in the world is free enterprise that we have in this country. Do I believe that the Republican Party, the principles and philosophy, what they believe in is the better of the two between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party? Yes. What happens is I would like Latinos to, even if you're a Democrat, why don't you find out more the truth about what Republican, conservative, Hispanic Republican, why are they with the Republican Party? What is the end? And I think that once they learn what they don't know, they're going to think to themselves, well, I've always been a Republican this whole time. I thought I was a Democrat, but really, they're Republicans.
You know what? I've heard that from not just Latinos. I've heard that from every group that's ever taken time to spend time with our group and talk with our group or listening to our radio show. They said, Deb, listening to your radio show up in Lake County and up in Waukegan area down there in Gurnee, up there in Gurnee, they said, really, listening to the show made me realize that I'm more Republican than I am Democrat. And Latinos especially, because Latinos, they come from a conservative roots. Their roots are conservative. Latinos know better than to vote for people that want to bring down religious freedom in America, or religious freedom in Illinois. They know better than to vote for the very people who support abortion. God himself brings forth life. Really? It's so important for Latinos to understand you got to vote your values. You got to go with what you were raised with and what you know. And none of that is a progressive, liberal Democrat. None of that. We have so many problems in the state. And anyways, if the Democrats in Illinois were for Latinos, we would have already had more Latino leaders. Pat Quinn did not run or pick a Latino to be his running mate. Yet you had 4 Republicans running for office, and 3 of the 4 had minorities. Really all 4 if you count women as a minority group. So you got Bruce Rounders running with a Latina. When he won the gubernatorial primary last week. I was there in the room, and she spoke in Spanish. Evelyn accepted the nomination and introduced Bruce, and she did it in Spanish. Es pura Latina. So it's important for you to understand. And Quinn didn't do that. They could have done that. I mean, hell, it's been on the backs of Hispanics that they've won so many elections. How many elections? Well, it's time that they lose it, because I can't imagine any Latino not voting for such a historic moment in the state of Illinois, when that historic moment is putting a Latina happens to be a woman, it's fine with me, I'm a woman, in the highest position, second highest position in the state of Illinois. That's huge, unprecedented. I mean, that's going in great directions. And so I'm appealing to every Hispanic listener out there. The time has come. You need to vote your values, and you need to vote with Bruce Rauner for the Republican governor's seat because of Evelyn, La Latina, that's running alongside of him. Have you met Evelyn? Did you get a chance to meet her?
No, I have not met her, but I heard she's a fellow Cuban.
Is she Cuban?
Yeah.
Oh, is she 100% Cuban?
No, I think she's 50% Cuban.
Oh, okay. I did not know that she era cubana. There you go. Well, that explains a little feistiness on her side. And Cubans tend to be Republicans. I better not hear of any Cubans out there voting Democrat. But we need Puerto Ricans on board. We need the Colombians. I think everybody who besides the Puerto Ricans, everybody else already knows what Luis Gutierrez did to the immigration movement. I mean, he used it like a carrot over people's heads and kept making promises he knew was never going to happen. I knew there was a problem when the immigration movement agreed to allow a Puerto Rican who has nothing to do with immigration issues, because Puerto Ricans are natural-born American citizens when they're born, even if they're living in the island. And speaking of Puerto Rico, we need to make Puerto Rico a statehood. And we need to push for that. Did I tell you that I spoke with Luis Fortuño, the former Republican governor of Puerto Rico, a couple weeks ago when I was out at CPAC in Washington, D.C.?
Okay, I go.
Yeah, it went great. Muy amable. We talked about that. I'll probably play his show here this week so people can hear his response to statehood and where it's at right now. I mean, I don't get it. 85% of the people on the island voted to make Puerto Rico a state. And every single state in America, when they put the proposal before the House and the Senate to become a state, within 3 months, all of them. We are going on the 9th month. It has been 9 months since it's been put on the table, and the Democrats do not want to give Puerto Rico statehood. The Democrats. So we really need to get that moving and get it in the right direction so that Puerto Rico could be well represented. A lot of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico are Republican, and we think that that's the reason why they're dragging their feet. I mean, the leftist liberal progressives will keep telling you that Puerto Ricans are Democrats, but that's not true. Or they wouldn't have elected Luis Fortuño, the Republican governor who turned the economy around to the third best economy in America, which is so funny. They're not a state, but they have the third best economy in America. At least they did under Luis Fortuño, who lost recently the governor's seat to a Democrat. They probably stole it through voter fraud. But they're hurting right now, and I bet they wish that he was back in there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But you're right on your message. Latinos need to vote their values, and they can't be voting for people who think that religion is a joke and that freedoms are not important, because they are. And we strongly, as Latinos, believe in family, and the Republican Party believes in family. And you're right, all Republicans are not good, but it's a better position than voting for someone that's with a party that is so far to the left that this country is heading towards a communistic rule of socialism that no one has ever imagined. I don't think in the history of America have we ever gotten this close, unless you include the McCarthyism period.
Yeah, well, you know what? Even as Latinos or people that come to this country,
That's right. That's right.
But when you come to this country, you cannot try to convert this to Sharia law. You cannot convert this to what Russia's going. Like, for example, they don't believe in gay rights over there. Okay, America's America, and it's great because of what it stands for. And you think that the people that are here and think they're going to change this country, you know what? We don't want them here. Get out. Go to a country where they have the same philosophies. If you believe in communism, go to a country that's communistic. If you believe in Sharia law, go to a country where there's Sharia law. But leave America alone.
Yeah,
we gotta be Americans.
That's right. That's right. We're very proud to be Americans, and we are now coming to the end of our show. How fast it went, Frank, when you joined me. So I want to thank you so much for being my guest on this show, and of course I invite you to always come on to the show. Good luck with the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. I'm very excited to see what transpires from such a great organization. I'm involved with them as well, and just a great bunch of people. I want to thank you for everything. I want to thank our listeners for listening. Again, you've been listening to Deb Gordils here in Chicago, in Lake County, and in Evanston. If you want to get in touch with me, you can call 773 991-3577. If you want to get in touch with me through Steve in Lake County, 224-545-7270. You've been listening to Deb Gordils. Thank you for being on my show. I'll see you again tomorrow at 5 o'clock right here on this station. Have a great day.
The Bottom Line with Deb Gordils is transmitted from Monday to Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. in Radio Latina 5.0. From Latinos to Latinos.